10. The cell door opened with a dull screech. Cal didn't bother to move, didn't bother to greet this next round of questioning with the dignity of recognition. His body still ached from the last one.
Sooner or later, I'm gonna find you dead in one of these cells,
Said a familiar voice, pompous and cocksure. Cal sighed in relief. He lifted his head and ran his hand through his hair. Resting his head against the grimy stone wall, he eyed the familiar newcomer. Jord, he said. George's brand glowed blue in the cell's dim light, the crack of ice echoing as he directed the light toward a metal canteen in his hand. George tossed the canteen at Cal's feet, the contents sloshing inside as it skittered against the ground.
Thought you could use something to drink.
Cal popped open the canteen and took several long swigs, the treated water burning his throat as it brought life back to his limbs. Got anything stronger? He spluttered, water dripping down his chin. George snorted with an indignation only one who dined with the upper echelon of society could manage.
I'm sure we can find you something. Now come. You've wasted enough time as it is with this little vacation of yours.
It was Cal's turn to snort. His aching arms protested as he heaved himself up, leaning against the wall for balance. He wasn't bleeding, at least not at the moment, but he would feel the effects of his visit for a few more days to come. George looked him up and down as he limped over, eyes lingering on several scorch marks.
Those look nasty.
He said, his voice cold and emotionless, keeping up appearances even here. New recruits, Cal groaned, rotating the ache out of his shoulder. Target practice.
Any potents?
Jord asked, his brow raised a touch. Nope. Any new prefect recruit who showed proficiency with the gift was a prime target for the rebellion. Jord, or another more diplomatically inclined rebel, would pay them a visit and discuss the virtues of contributing to a totalitarian control state, as Jord had put it. Failing diplomacy, they would be visited by a different member of the rebellion, someone more like Cal. Either way, the potent would be dealt with.
Shame, George said. We could use some fresh blood.
Target practice, Cal added, his words as cold as the water he'd just consumed. Jord didn't reply, instead choosing to lead Cal through the back entrance of the prefect's barracks, away from prying eyes, and toward a canal boat. One markedly different from Shay and Artie's. Jord's boat ran 3 times the length with gold trimmings adorned on its lacquered wood. Cal rolled his eyes at the waste of coin as he stepped inside. Cost you much to get me out? Cal mused as he donned a fresh set of clothing.
As always,
Jord replied, seating himself behind a table in an impractically large booth. Cal paused. His eyes flicked over to Jord's, before returning to the bottle he'd just retrieved from a cabinet. Thanks. Jord nodded as the boat started underway. How long have you been back in the city? Cal asked, picking up 2 glasses and gesturing. Jord nodded again.
Got back yesterday. Feels like too long since I've stopped in one place.
Jord replied, accepting a full glass. How did you know where I was being kept? Cal asked, seating himself opposite Jord.
Contacts told me about a group of Hollowborn who'd escaped a warehouse. Rumors of the chain breaker coming to their terrifying rescue. Then it was just a case of asking the right people.
Jord swirled the contents of his glass, his gaze steady on Cal. I hate that name, Cal replied, draining his glass. The familiar burn of the alcohol soothed the ache in his muscles. Surprised I let you take me. Jord emptied his glass and slid it across the table.
Lucky for you, the chainbreaker is a common catch for the prefects. Any Hollowborn that looks mean enough gets scooped up and worked over.
The Hollaborn from the warehouse. Were they? Cal paused mid pour, a lightness in his chest as he let the question hang.
Scooped up by yours truly.
Appreciate it, Cal said, sliding a refilled glass back to Jord.
I'm sure Barkus will appreciate a new batch of shock troopers.
Cal's stomach sank at the thought. Even among the rebellion, Hollaborn were treated like disposable soldiers, good for soaking up gift blasts. A meat shield for the more useful giftlings. Still, it was better than rotting in a cell. Jord drained his glass and stood, exiting the booth and making his way toward the cabins. He stopped as he passed Cal, gripping his shoulder, firm and reassuring.
Get some sleep, Cal. It'll be a while before we're back at base.
Soon, Cal said, eyeing the remainder of the bottle.
Despite everything, it is good to see you again.
Jord placed a small tattered coin pouch in front of Cal, giving his shoulder one last pat.
I'm glad that you're not dead.
Started at the pouch, his fingers twitching before he reached out for the bottle and said, That makes one of us. The canal boat pulled into a vast underground vault, an enormous platform dominating the center of the space. Several tunnels, waterways, and passageways alike branched out from this platform, leading to the different districts of Yundis. Cal coughed as the reek of stagnant water filled his nose. He'd never quite gotten used to the stench. No one knew when this underground chamber had been built. Intricate patterns and glyphs ran through the stonework, remnants of Uden culture before the Davins, according to Artie. Even Cal had to admit the structure had an element of grandeur to it. Grandeur tinged with regret and loss. Time and abandonment had worn down the edges of the once proud stone, now more pebble like in their roundness. A fitting place for anyone wanting to be lost or forgotten. You look like shit, Shay said, her arms folded as she waited at the end of the makeshift wooden docks.
Found him stinking up yet another cell,
Jord huffed, sauntering past her.
These breakouts are becoming increasingly costly, Shay.
We can probably scrounge up the coin to pay you back.
Not that kind of cost,
Jord replied, not bothering to look back as he walked away. Shay glared at Cal. That was your idea of laying low? Jail? She said, with the softness of a pissed off parent. You said I wasn't welcome here. Had to find some place to go. I never said that. I told you to lay low, not end up in a prefect prison. Like it matters, Cal muttered, pushing past her and heading toward the structures ahead. You hate me, don't you? Shay's voice rang with sincerity, a tone Cal had almost forgotten coming from her. No, he replied, trying his best to match her. Not you, I hate. I know you want revenge, but don't go getting yourself killed in the process. We need you. Cal's arm ached as Shay ran her hand against his bicep, her fingers pressing into the tension he never let go of. I still need you. Cal turned to face her, her floral scent filling his nose and stirring memories of grief and the comfort of a bed shared. Memories he'd rather forget. He removed her hand from his arm, his face stone. There was no room for that anymore. Saw his speech on the Vox screen. He's here, in Yundis. Shay swallowed as Cal let go of her hand. I know. Barca sanctioned a hit yet? Shay shook her head. Not yet. He's got something else in mind for us first. Still working out the particulars. Cal mumbled. Anything else? Shay opened her mouth to speak, but closed it just as quickly, her eyes flashing with something Cal couldn't be bothered to figure out. No, nothing else. Good, Cal replied, turning as he talked. I need to get cleaned up. Let me know when you need me. Always do, Shay whispered. Cal removed the clothing he'd taken from George's boat, his wounds seeping as his muscles stretched. Each fresh bruise ached as he applied the last of his ointment. He'd have to make more soon, though asking Shay for help was out of the question. Better to keep his distance. The life of a rebel was short lived, and Cal expected his to be even shorter. The wound on his left arm pulsed, the pain throbbing through his fingers. Flexing didn't help. The ache was deep, deeper than muscle fibers, deeper than bone. It reached into the ligaments that held everything together. Memories of a crumbling chamber flashed through his mind. Ovette laying inches away, her face pale and still. His chest tightened, the weight of failure pressing down like a stone. His breathing grew labored, each breath harder than the last. His limbs shook, his skin came alive with pinpricks. Heat flushed through his cheeks, and his legs gave out, sending him to his knees. He grasped at the bedsheets, balling them in his fists as he fought to steady himself. Black dots danced at the edges of his vision. It was happening again. Cal clutched at the coin pouch, gripped the old fabric so hard he worried it might tear. He slumped back against the bed, focusing on his breathing, on the pouch, on anything but the memories. The dots faded. His chest lightened. The dizziness subsided. He reached for the hilt of the jagged blade, his fingers brushing empty air. He'd given it to Artie, a decision that now left him feeling exposed. Swallowing hard, Cal stood and donned a fresh tunic. He headed in the direction of Artie's workshop, the coin pouch clutched in his hand.